Imagine if you could predict what is going to sell on Etsy before anyone else does. Most sellers are stuck trying to come up with product ideas, and they're looking around to see what is already selling on Etsy. So today I've done the work for you. I have spent over 36 hours trend forecasting on trends that I'm predicting will make their way to Etsy in 2026. Now, my background and experience is I was a buyer for some big retail giants in e-commerce, and I have over 13 years of experience. And today I'm breaking down 10 emerging trends for 2026 that will help you design smarter, not harder, and no more chasing and copying other Etsy shops. And I'll also show you how to apply each trend to digital, handmade, and print on demand for maximum impact. And by the end, you'll know exactly how to take these visuals and turn them into revenue. Now, if you liked my trend videos, definitely subscribe to the channel, and I would love to make you more of these. Trend number 1 is already gaining traction, and it's showing up in places you wouldn't expect. And this is the cow print trend. We're seeing the cow print in unexpected places and with unexpected brands. Here we see Puma doing it in an athletic ballet flat. L&L Boutique is doing it with their stitch cowhide coasters. We see it with scarves, and you can see it's typically an all-over print. We're also seeing kind of a more modern, abstract take on this with silk scarves, pulling in some more burnt oranges and chestnut browns. We can see it with an iPad case cover. So we're actually seeing it almost more with browns than with blacks. With digital, you could do this for printable planners, Canva templates, nursery art. With print on demand, you could do mugs, tote bags, tees. I would love to see all over prints with wallpaper. And then handmade, you could definitely incorporate this into baby bibs or custom signs, that kind of retro Western style, even clay earrings. And so the tip here is to really incorporate browns in the cow print and not doing that traditional stark black and stark white. This next trend doesn't require you to sell vintage, but it will look like you do. This trend is vintage motifs. Now, why does vintage sell? Vintage sells because it feels rare. Think of like Jane Austen, that Regency inspiration. And one of my favorite ways that I'm seeing this is with the framed icons, typically with a gold ornate looking frame, lots of ovals, lots of gold accents. Nothing is cookie cutter. Everything looks a little bit different. When you're making vintage inspired patterns, make sure that you're getting a good variety and it's not looking cookie cutter. Let's say you sell digital wall art. Well, maybe you just sell the digital wall art prints, yet you are showing them in a mock-up of an ornate looking vintage inspired frame. That is another way to pull this trend in without selling the frame itself. We're also seeing this with magnets. This could be great for handmade or altered products, very ornate. We're seeing a lot of handheld mirrors, even with signage. So classic looking fonts, thick metal, very antique inspired signage. And with jewelry, we're definitely seeing this with jewelry. So think a lot of ovals, think a lot of frames around your jewelry and within your jewelry. Even with the supply category, things like switch plates that have that detail and kind of beading look to it. So this is an antique brass look. If you're doing digital, think about maybe some vintage inspired botanical inspirations, maybe retro clip art, and simply, like we talked about, maybe having a vintage inspired frame or elements within the mock-up. With print on demand, you could create vintage style or inspired t-shirts, notebooks, pillow covers. You could do anything that has an all-over print with these kind of vintage inspired icons, not cookie cutter. That is the key. And with handmade, there's so many ways to incorporate this, but lots of ovals, lots of trim, lots of detail, lots of brass and gold. Those are just a few great ways to incorporate this trend. If you're enjoying this, I would love for you to leave a comment and let me know which trend is your favorite so far. Now, for the third trend, we are going to talk about modern color pairing that will make your shop look instantly more trendy. So we're going to talk about two-tone, dark and light, monochromatic palettes. So I'm talking about like a navy combined with a slate blue, maybe a burgundy combined with a pale pink. These types of combinations feel very expensive. We're seeing this in all over patterns with apparel. I'm seeing this type of pattern actually do really well on both wrapping paper and wallpaper as well. We're seeing that with towels. You can see now this is more of an aqua with the dark green. We're seeing it with fabrics and pillows, right? Different shades of pink. Here with these towels, this is the perfect example of two-tone. We're also seeing that in lots of fabrics. We can see that kind of two-tone look also with this all over pattern and print. So you can see here, I love this one with the kind of deep plum merlot and the brighter kind of fuchsia. Again, with this trendy gingham, which we talked about back in spring, summer, we're seeing a ton of gingham. Gingham is the new stripe. This would be beautiful on a wrapping wrapping paper, pillows, blankets, even wallpaper would be great with this print. We're also seeing it with things like book covers, notebook covers, and it almost makes it look like a velvet or three-dimensional. So that can be a great way to incorporate this as well. And again, with hats, right? People think, okay, you need to have something high contrast, but oftentimes with hats, people who wear hats sometimes like a more subtle aesthetic. In the past, people would think it clashes, but it does work partially as well because of the font combination and the design element. In digital, you could do this with resume templates, wedding invites, branding kits. That would be huge. Print on demand, think about two-tone graphic tees. Think about going with like the burgundy and then doing some red or coral on it, or the forest green and doing some lighter green text on it. Think about doing this with phone cases, art prints, for sure wrapping paper, anything with an all-over print. This would look fantastic on. But I especially love this trend for apparel. And then with handmade, I mean, sky's the limit. You could do this with different shades of yarn, ribbon, glazes, different stains, different paint colors. A little tip here is to offer 2 different color palettes minimum in one listing, so people have some choice. So we've gone through 3 of the 10 trends that I'm forecasting that will blow up on Etsy in 2026. There's 7 more. And I have a separate video for those 7 that I would love to invite you to watch. This is completely free. All you have to do is put in your email and you'll get full access to all of this information. So click on the link below and I will see you over there for the next 7 trends. And within the last 7, it's actually one of my personal favorites. And there is a hint in the picture right now. I'm not going to say what it is. So click on the link and I'll see you over there for part 2 of our trends video.